Hey everybody, I hope you all had another great week. It's been another very busy week here in Washington, D.C. We passed some very good legislation here in the House of Representatives to protect and defend our people in our community from before you were born up until our community, people in our community are seniors. I also helped to introduce a bill that supports our Gold Star families, and we took a vote on the budget. So there was a lot that went on this week. Before we get into all of that, I want to start by saying a few things about what's happened with the tragedy in Las Vegas on Sunday night. I'm not going to insult anybody by saying that I'm shocked. And I don't think there are very many people that are shocked. We're always horrified when something like this happens. And we always mourn alongside each of those in our community, but we've seen it happen time again. I've seen great evil across much of this world myself. And I know that this is not the last time that we will be witness to acts of evil like this. And I can tell you that my wife Brianna and I, that we thank God every day for our first responders who run toward gunfire instead of away, and that they go out there and they save countless lives. We're very thankful for the heroes that exist among us. I believe that there is much debate that we can and that we should have. But I will share my personal opinions with you all right now. It is truly sad as a nation that we've become so desensitized to death and killing. Serving in the Army, in the military, in many ways I became desensitized to death. In similar ways, I know what it was to take life and to see life snuffed out. But serving in the military and seeing death firsthand, I always realized that I had an appreciation for life. I knew that there's nothing glamorous about death. I know that the way that it's portrayed in movies out there, or in some of the TV shows that we watch, or the video games that exist out there, that puts a mystique around it, or makes it seem glamorous. That's not really the truth. That's not what it's like when somebody bleeds out in front of you. And having to sit there and hold your fellow soldier as they breathe their last breath. It's not glorious and it's not glamorous as it is portrayed in video games and TV. And I think that gives you a respect for life and a value of humanity that maybe others don't necessarily always find it in, versus if people become desensitized to death from television or something else, they don't get that same respect for what it is really like to see a life lost or a life taken. That's my personal opinion on the issue. These types of events, they serve to highlight the true danger when people who lack that respect for life, who are unhealthy and who have also been desensitized to death, that act in a disgusting, evil way because they see something glamorous about it, or they think it will help them advance some kind of agenda. Obviously, we don't have all of the information on this event yet, but I think this is an important conversation to have, and a conversation that should absolutely continue. I'm going to continue to have the conversation. Switching gears a little bit here. On the international front, we've been continuing to work to protect the safety of Americans and our allies, both at home and abroad. In the Foreign Affairs Committee, we held a hearing about the Iranian militias in the Middle East, which have helped to destabilize the region, and how to counter their harmful activities there. Iran, through their proxies, are essentially implementing a system of colonization from their country to the east and to the west, and there is a very real threat of a very evil Iranian empire that calls for the death of the United States and our allies. And that's it's a very serious problem that we face, and that I'm happy to be a part of combating as a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee. Another important hearing we held was over at the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, the subcommittee on Coast Guard and Maritime Transportation, on the Coast Guard's response to hurricanes and the impact on hurricane relief efforts in Puerto Rico, and what we need to be doing to make sure that the Coast Guard is well equipped as they could possibly be to go out there and to get the job done. So that's another one of the important hearings that we had this week. So back to a few of the items that I mentioned earlier. I'm very proud to say that on Tuesday, the House passed the pain-capable Unborn Child Protection Act. And I can tell you that as a father of 3 beautiful children, I am very, very proud to support life. I know what it is to protect life. And as I said already, I know what it is to take life and to see life lost. And our role should always be that we protect the innocent. And the Pain Capable Unborn Child Protection Act will protect the innocent, voiceless, and give unborn children the opportunity to grow up, living fulfilling lives. One of the roles that I take most seriously in Congress is the opportunity to be a voice for voiceless. We should all be able to agree that children who can feel pain, that have a heartbeat, should be protected. And that's exactly what the House voted to do. I will always use my voice to speak up for those who can't and to protect the most uniquely special creature that God has ever created. And, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. My wife and I will do whatever we can to save the lives of these innocent. And if it meant taking any child into our home for any mother who is struggling with the decision about whether to have an abortion or not, we would absolutely take that child into our home. And the reality is, if there were 100 mothers that came to us, then we would have created the most amazing possible problem that we could ever have to imagine dealing with. And we would absolutely go out there and be supportive on that front. Another important piece of legislation that I want to talk about that we passed this week was the Elder Abuse Prevention and Prosecution Act. And this is obviously on the other side of life, which will combat elder abuse and financial exploitation of our seniors. It's a very important piece of legislation that we've worked on for some time. It promotes the investigation and the prosecution of perpetrators who prey upon our seniors. It enhances data collection, and it provides resources for elder abuse prevention programs. And so it's a very good piece of legislation. If you or someone that you know has been targeted, our office is collecting reports of fraud so that we can help you report the fraud and protect your identity. You can submit your report at mass.house.gov/fraud, and we will be happy to help you any assistance that we can give on that front. I also want to give you just a couple of points on an item that I've heard from people about on social media this week, and that's the Children's Health Insurance Program, or CHIP, as it's also known. There's a bunch of misinformation that's floating out there, some of it deliberate by political groups that CHIP ran out of money last week, and that's just not the truth because of the way that CHIP funding works. Every single state has money left to continue funding this program through the end of the year. The CHIP reauthorization bill went through the Energy and Commerce Committee this week in the way that it should be. This is the way that it does itself through the legislative process, and we will be bringing it to the floor very soon so that we can make sure that the program does get the reauthorization that it needs. And now on a different topic, some of my fellow veterans in Congress and we also introduced a bill this week to help families of members of the armed forces who died while serving. They're so often referred to as the Gold Star family, and this legislation is called the Gold Star Family Support and Installation Access Act, and I was very proud to be a part of this one. I know as well as anybody that there is a very high cost that is paid for all those that go out there and defend this country. And my family and I and my children, we have limitless opportunities to enjoy life, and that was not something that was free. It was paid for with the blood and the spirit of men and women who traded their own lives to fulfill their oath to the United States of America. I know many families. I wear names on my wrist of friends that I've lost. Every time I walk into the entranceway of the office building that I have here in Washington, I see the names of all those that I knew and of many others that I didn't know who left this world far too soon. And I think about them every single time, and I do think about their families as well, and especially about the families that I've had the honor of knowing personally. Since World War I, the Gold Star symbol, it's been used by American families to honor members of the armed forces who have given their lives in service to the nation. But the only Gold Star benefit currently defined in law is a lapel pin. And I'm a firm believer that we can do so much better than that. Surviving families of deceased members of the armed forces, they confront many, many challenges, often made worse by policies that fail to compassionately honor the memory of the sacrifice of their loved one. And because there are lucky ones like myself, the ones that did get to come home, we have a commitment for life, for the rest of our life, to ensure that the Gold Star families are taken care of, that those people that had my back, that I now have the back of their family. And this bill is a strong step towards supporting Gold Star families. And I'm very, very, very proud to be a part of it. Lastly, on Thursday, we voted on the budget bill. And as I've been saying for a long time, our spending habits here in Washington are completely out of control. Our debt now totals more than $60,000 per person. That's every man, every woman, every child, all because of Congress's reckless and wasteful habits. And I would encourage everybody to think about that for a second, especially on the heels of tax reform, that is a way that every single one of you is taxed by the government, debt that is layered upon you that you did not allow or authorize the government to lay upon you. Every year, families and small businesses, they are forced to set and live by a budget. And unfortunately, today's vote continues this disastrous trend of passing budgets that don't really balance, and they use unrealistic expectations to often fake the numbers. And this is a practice based on not accurate math that bookkeepers in any company anywhere would probably be fired for doing. So why should we accept that from Washington, D.C.? We need tax reform that lowers rates and that closes loopholes that are used by those that can afford to go out there and hunt down these loopholes. And the government needs to spend less. And the government needs to empower the American people to do more with their own money, because that is the reality. Every single dollar that you earn is yours. The federal government does not have this unending right to it. And this bill doesn't do nearly enough to end the tax and the spend status quo. Moving forward, I'm going to be doing everything, anything that I can do to fix this mess that our country is in financially, including serious tax cuts that will simplify the tax code, that will close those loopholes that are used by those that can afford to find them, and that will lower taxes and lower taxes for every single American. As always, I just want you to know that it is an honor to represent you here in Congress. We have had a number of visitors this week here in Washington. I always like to encourage you all, if you're coming to Washington, D.C., come and visit the office. Let us know what we can do to make your trip special. If you have children, let us bring your children out onto the floor of the House of Representatives so they can see what's going on in the legislative process. Let us play a role in your visit here to Washington, D.C., and hopefully make it the greatest trip that you've ever had to Washington, D.C. I look forward to seeing you all around the district in the days to come, and look forward to having many more conversations with you all. All the best.